On the podcast today, we are looking at image generators. My gosh, Adobe is coming out with this phenomenal stuff. Meta AI is coming out with all this crazy stuff. I've tested one of them. Jaden was testing another one. Jaden was doing this like really cool stuff on I don't know if it was on Photoshop. Jaden, what were you seeing over there? Because Adobe is like the OG when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, so Adobe has a new, it's called Firefly Image 3. It's their new AI model that they've dropped, and it's actually quite impressive. You don't even need to, they'll be embedding it into Photoshop and everything else. You don't actually have to do that. They have a standalone website you can go, which we can leave in the description, show notes for you to go check out. Highly recommend it. It's actually very impressive. The big update here that they've done is that on all of their new images, it's actually like realistic, like a photo. So we saw a very similar update come to Midjourney. I think it was probably last year. So like Midjourney is a little bit ahead of the curve on this. But it's amazing because, you go from it being like these kind of like artistic style images to all of a sudden you have images that look like real photos. So it's really, really impressive. I've been playing around with it and, I got it to generate like a bunch of pictures of like castles for me and like literally looks like you're just at like some historical site and snapped a photo. So I think it's really impressive. What do you see from Meta on this?
Yeah, I mean, and I was one more sort of thought on Adobe on this, right? Because I did a test drive of Meta, and I want to kind of get to that too, because it's really, really cool. But on the Adobe thing, I did a thing with Adobe last year in New York City, and one of the things that I was talking with them about, we were kind of talking back and forth about was, and again, they know this as well, but I was just sort of like trying to give my outside perspective. Like this is when everybody was really worried about, and we still are, right? But about like stealing images, copyright, all that kind of stuff. But in the early days, and when I mean like maybe a year ago, the big question was, are these things even going to exist, right? I mean, like, can Midjourney even do this? You know what I mean? Like, are they allowed to do it? Like, what are they training on? All that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that's died down because it hasn't, but it's interesting because Adobe's play, and I was talking to their team, Adobe's play seemed to be not only, first of all, they have the ecosystem, like you call it photo in the same way you call it Googling, you call it Photoshopping, you know what I mean? Like they have a lot of stuff. Firefly is clearly a fantastic tool. I know my our designer Robert Haslam like uses that as well. Like I've seen like what he does on it. It's incredible stuff. But here's the thing, like the other thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gene, but it's something like, you can upload an image or something like that and sort of like have it, be based on that thing, which is what, it just feels like it's going to be a much easier user interface. A couple of things, easier user interface than Midjourney. I use Midjourney all the time and I'm still terrible at it. Like it's just, I'm like, what do I press? And like, what are these buttons? Like, it just drives me absolutely bonkers. So user interface, but also just this whole notion of if you can upload an image and say, hey, this is kind of like what I want to base it on, which is really what you want, right? It's like, hey, I want to take a picture. You take a picture of this tree. I want something like that instead of trying to describe it. But then how are they going to manage this whole thing around copyright? Because like images that you could have taken with a camera, but far more likely is that you're grabbing it off the internet, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's fascinating. I think this is the big issue that they're gonna have to work with. I mean, one thing that people have, like this whole controversy also gets pulled into kind of this new thing, which Adobe also has announced in their new Firefly Image 3, which is reference images. So you can upload an image to Firefly 3 and say, hey, like based off of this image pretty much, let's see, modify this small element on it, add this thing to it. It's really, really cool technology. But a lot of people are concerned, like, okay, well, what if people are uploading like a Picasso, or that's probably less concern because it's so old, but like, some brand new photographer's piece of art or someone's, a Banksy or whatever, right? Some new thing. People are concerned about this and they're like, how do you know you have licensing? I think at the end of the day, this isn't really an issue because I can go get a Picasso or a Banksy and I can go and put it, like Photoshop it on my own computer. Like, you could just do that with copyrighted stuff. Like, should you? Is that legal? I don't know. But that's kind of your own, I think, your fault. I don't think it's Adobe's like issue to police or figure out. The one thing I'll say though, like in regards to all of that, is they did make a modification to the model. So if you upload an image, you're uploading something that's going to be used as a reference image. it doesn't get included in the training data set. Now, I think that's good for like, sure, the copyright thing, but like, honestly, from a user perspective, I don't want like to upload my family photo and make some slight alteration and then like my family photo is included in their data set. Like, sorry, that's not really just not what I want. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, but that seems to be a really cool new feature that they've added. And I've seen people like demoing it where they're like completely modifying elements, and it's essentially removing the skill set of like, I'm a skilled Photoshopper, I know how to use all the tools. Yeah, you don't need to. You just upload your photo and then you just like chat with the thing and be like, hey, can you like change this or that or add this and that, like, and it make my teeth whiter, whatever, and it goes and does it.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm impressed with. And I mean, and again, I still think they have a ways to go with, I mean, look, image generation is absolutely phenomenal, but it still is in this moment where you sort of like just, you describe what you want and then you cross your fingers. Do you know what I mean? Like, and sometimes it kind of pops up and sometimes it doesn't. Now, again, this is why when we talk about like, well, the graphic artists and, photographers, everything else will like disappear. I always like really say like, absolutely not. You might need fewer. Okay, fair enough. But again, I just referenced, my designer, Robert Haslam, and he's like just a genius on all this generative AI stuff, and especially designing the stuff he designs for, like, I have a newsletter that goes out every week, his AI Mindset newsletter, all that kind of stuff, and our AI Mindset website, everything, and the quick start guide. He designed all of that, and I could never in a million years have kind of had that vision. Like, it still requires the human to have that vision, and that's what I think is so impressive. But if they can make it just easier to use, I think especially things like Midjourney will be just so much better. And and also, by the way, that kind of dovetails into Meta. So, I mean, have you tried the Meta AI image generator yet, Jaden?
I haven't tried the image. I tried the Llama 3 text one, but tell me about the image one.
Yeah, I mean, and we were sort of saying, I think we talked about it before, Llama 3 is looking great. The text thing is awesome. So first of all, I know a lot of people sort of got rid of their Facebook account, and I wonder if this is just partially like Meta being like, if you want it, you got to open your Facebook. So it's a very weird thing. I like love Meta as a company, but I hadn't really opened my Facebook in quite a while, right? And I'm like, how does this even work? So you go in there and you have like all these like ancient messages from like your grandparents who are writing like, where are you? But anyway, but here's the thing, right? You have to go through that to test it out. It's just meta.ai. I think that's what the link is. And here's the really cool thing about it is that you sort of like start typing in the prompt essentially. And with basically every letter, it changes the image, right? Because it's trying to, and it's like a real amazing sort of like looking at sort of like predictive text and how it all works, right? So the one that I was doing was sort of like, hey, generate a picture of a rock, and then we'd do a rock, and I'm like, and then rock would put an S, and then it's made into rocks, but then like rock star, like, and then all of a sudden the rocks change into this, like playing, and with every letter, it changes it just slightly, and so you can watch it happening in real time, which is just phenomenal, and kind of again gives you some insight. But I think it's looking pretty good,
That's impressive. Yeah, that's really cool. It's interesting because it sounds just like Google's, like when you, back in the day, it was super cool that when you were searching for something on Google, it was like auto suggesting your, search query. And like, if you saw something, you could click on it. So yeah, I know. I just think that's funny that it's now come to the image point, which in my opinion makes me feel like maybe these images are like getting a lot cheaper. All of this is getting a lot cheaper to do because like if they're generating every step of your prompt, like obviously that costs compute and stuff. So I don't know, that's kind of interesting. Or maybe they're just like, well, just do something so interesting and crazy to get more publicity for it, and it's essentially just good for us.
That's actually, that's a good question actually. Like, if it is about publicity, like you think about like how we get publicity in this world, right? And like, and these companies have essentially unlimited money, but how do you actually get everybody sort of like thinking about your model as better, right? Because actually, like the big leaderboards on like Limsys or whatever these things are called, like the leaderboards, like the ones that people trust, tend to be sort of like these crowdsourced things. You know what I mean? Like there are metrics, but they're not that great. And so if Meta can all of a sudden like get this amazing press around like Llama 3 and then around this image generator for whatever, like that is not just, hey, go out and buy Meta, because there's nothing to buy, right? Everybody either has Instagram. But what I think it does, and Jaden, you're in this space with AI bots better than I am. Like, I wonder if it's a talent play. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wonder if this is sort of like, hey, not only are we open source, but we're doing cool things. Zuckerberg is now dressing really cool, all that kind of stuff. Like, I wonder if it's partially that. Do you know what I mean?
I think there's always a talent play to everything you do. And that's kind of why, like, I think Tesla did a lot with like all of these guys. Every single company has to have like an AI arm, and people are like, well, why is like Meta investing so much in Llama? And it's like, you know, honestly, a big part of it is like the AI researchers that come in and that they might help with like Llama or whatever. They're also probably helping like optimize AI algorithms for like the news feed on Facebook, which is like less sexy and maybe less super talented people want to go work on that. You know what I mean? Right. So I think there always is an AI play in everything. But yeah, absolutely fascinating. It's exciting to see how these new image generators are progressing. I mean, at this point, I think they're really phenomenal. And we're going to start seeing the same players then start moving to video, which is really exciting. So tons of exciting stuff coming down the pipe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. Listen, like, hey, keep testing these things out, guys. Like, because again, as we were sort of saying in the beginning, like the only way to figure this stuff out is just to kind of get in there. So Jaden's testing one thing, I'm testing another. And unless you sort of see it and feel it under your fingertips, there's not really any great way of doing it. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us today. If you enjoyed today's AI Applied podcast, Jaden has a birthday coming up at some point this year. I don't know when, or maybe next year. And as an early birthday present to Jaden, what we want so desperately is just for you to rate and review. Guys, it is the one gift we ask for. If you wouldn't mind, we'd be so, so grateful. Have a great rest of your day.